As a Christian, who do you think the better party is to vote for in November, Republicans or Democrats? I say it's Republicans all day long. You might not like everything about Trump. I don't like everything about Trump. But if you need to make a choice between who is the more God-fearing, moral-based party, all day long it's the Republicans. It is. The writing's on the wall. Everything's getting crazy now. How people don't see this is beyond me. And for all this talk about how like Christians shouldn't talk about politics or shouldn't like open their mouths and get involved in this stuff, that's nonsense. It's nonsense. You know what other Christians took that standpoint once upon a time? A lot of Christians in Germany in the 1930s, when Hitler was rising to power, they shut their mouths about what was being done to the Jews. And look what happened. Now, some definitely opened their mouths and spoke up against that evil. And they're commendable for sure. But a lot of them didn't. So get that talk out of your mouth about how we don't talk about these things. We should talk about these things for sure. So in regards to November, vote with logic. Don't vote with emotion. And also you have to try to read through the propaganda that's being fed to you. You really do. You have to understand that there's so much of a push to put stuff out that's not really accurate, that's compromised, that's biased in one direction. And you need to try to read through that to the root of things. And I know that's easier said than done, especially if you have a family and you have a lot of commitments and you don't have a lot of time to study this stuff. I understand that. And it's easy to get fooled. I fully get it. But here's the thing. It's almost like in the book 1984, or where they said, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. That was their final, most essential command. Something to that effect, they said. That's what they would have you do right now. They would have you just disregard everything you see that's going on in the world. Everything you see that's going on in the country right now. Don't disregard those things. Let's look at some of these things. All right. You have inflation, which is becoming scary disturbing at this point. Inflation and the cost of living is getting to dangerous levels. I mean, let's really be honest. I mean, that hits everybody. It's just crazy. There's that. Then you have the southern border, arguably the elephant in the room, if you will, which has been overrun, completely overrun. You have drugs coming through. You have criminals coming through. There are good people that come through, and I have empathy for those people. And I mean that from my heart. I actually believe I've met some. And they're really good people, some of them. A lot of them. I'd say the majority of them are very good people. The problem is this creates an insane situation, a dangerous situation. We don't know who the majority of these people are. We don't. I mean, it doesn't even really need explanation as to how dangerous of a situation that can create. All right, so you got that. You have Afghanistan, the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was a humiliating, embarrassing defeat for the U.S. There's images of the plane flying with people hanging off the airplane as it was taking off. I mean, come on. You got that. You have the political persecution of Trump, which is something that's never been seen in the history of our country, which is so dangerous. That's the stuff that devolves a country into a freaking banana republic, people. That's what it does. I mean, you need to really take your blinders off and realize that that's what this is. It's a political persecution, and it's one of those things that can completely destroy a country. Then you've got the multiple wars that have been going on now, that have started during Biden's time. War with Russia and Ukraine is real dangerous. That didn't start under Trump, it started under Biden. And if it keeps going on, and NATO gets involved, you could have a world war. And then you're having a world war with a nuclear-armed country. We don't want that. Nobody wants that. And the current Biden regime doesn't look like they're going to try to have it resolved in any way. They're just going to keep pushing it on. Maybe Trump would be able to get it to come to a conclusion, to get peace talks to happen, to shut this insanity down. Because Biden's surely not. If you think a world war wouldn't directly affect us, then you're naive. And please don't buy into this dictator thing that they throw around, this dictator word that they try to pin on Trump. The man had 4 years to become a dictator, and he didn't. So, let that one go. I know their new word for him is convicted felon, which is what George Soros' son decided to try to get everybody to use relentlessly. So that's what you hear constantly in the news about him. But just understand something. I think the old quote goes, find me the person, I'll find you the crime. You hunt long enough, you could sit there and find little crimes that anybody's done. Presidents, people, civilians, anybody. This is nonsense. Everybody knows it's nonsense. And just understand something, that some people might call Trump like a loose cannon or whatever. There's potentially some benefits to being considered to be a loose cannon. I'm not saying to be one. But I'll say this. In the eyes of the world, a lot of people consider him to be as such. But because of that, I'd venture to say they're less likely to do something stupid, to do something that would directly negatively affect us in the US, because they don't know how he'll react. When you don't know how somebody's going to react about something, and you think they're kind of crazy and like nutty, you're probably more likely to not do the thing. Whereas you got Biden, who's ridiculously predictable, and I might add cognitively compromised. And so they don't have that discretion when it comes to him. So please try to think about these things, because we're going into like the most important election that the country's ever had. So it would really behoove people to think about this stuff.